Hello everyone, it is me, Game Penguin 21, and today, oh boy, looks like it's time to start talking about the Elden Ring DLC yet again. I know, I said that I probably wouldn't talk about it anymore, but this is one of those videos that you kind of just look at and you're like, maybe there's a little more context here. So recently, Frit, or the Fritanga, if you know him more in that context, released a video about how apparently having a child leads to specific problems. Now, obviously, I don't think that there is a lot to this, but I wanted to talk about that clip specifically because I found more information here, and I think that it adds interesting context to that. But it's also good because it's like, again, Elden Ring DLC. Elden Ring is kind of like popular and blah, 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 blah. But overall, like, people seem to have taken this clip at least a little bit out of context. So let's put it a little bit back into context to, kind of explain to what I think that they're trying to say. I also find it really funny how some people got like very salty over him actually posting this clip onto Twitter, which I think is like the funniest thing in the world. So what are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about, again, Elden Ring DLC and the difficulty and how people are saying that it's hard when obviously it is not. The actual video and the people that were talking about this also seem to have this sort of weird context surrounding it, and the video that we are going to be talking about specifically, the tweet that I found this from, I should say, is that it was posted from this account to show where the video is coming from, to give credit to that video. Very, very weird roundabout way to say this is where the video is coming from, is saying the Elden Ring DLC is too hard, in quotes, that it's not. And this is, Ken here is replying to, Frit taking this clip apparently out of context. It's a 17-minute video, but there's not a lot that's wrong or that I don't think is required to kind of explain the clip itself, because the clip itself can work in a vacuum. There is more details after this that I found from my usual sources, but again, long story short, this is a clip of a clip, and I'm just trying to explain some shit. So with that being said, let's look at the clip first, and then we'll explain a little.
Is concerned. There are long-term disabilities. There are situational disabilities, there are temporary disabilities. It counts as a disability where a video game like Elden Ring is concerned if you have a kid. You have a 2-year-old, you're trying to play Elden Ring, you can't pause. That is a situational disability that you have, where the game not having the option for you to be able to pause, for example, is a hindrance for your particular disability. Okay,
so there is, again, I'm sorry that the clip kind of cuts off there a little bit, but the basic premise is that this person is trying to explain that quote-unquote a disability in this context is that someone else has a kid, which I think that she just worded it badly. And that's not on her. Like, absolutely, like, what she's saying is actually true. Having a child means that you do have to kind of devote some of your time to your child, your work, and your other stuff. But a situational disability, I don't think is a thing. That's like the part that I think everyone's getting hung up on. Because of the fact that she says it's a disability, that just means that it disables you from doing something. And I think that it's a more literal context. But in this way, when you say disability, most people would associate disability with something like ADHD or Down syndrome or stuff like that. Then having a child is not a disability. It's a hindrance, for sure, 100% a hindrance, but it is not a disability. A hindrance is something that can be changed. It's not a situational disability. That doesn't make any sense in terms of the word. Like, oh, it's in this situation, I'm disabled. Like, that's not how this operates. Because technically speaking, everyone with a disability is situationally disabled. Like, full stop. For people who have not as developed lungs as someone else. They are situationally disabled when it comes to, say, walking or running or being able to stand for a long time. Absolutely, those are situations where you are disabled, but you still have a disability that is wrong within your body that you really kind of can't change. You can change the situation with your child and your family and all that other stuff to find a better work-life balance and stuff, but it's hard to change around other stuff. Like, you get what I'm saying here, right? It makes no sense. Like, the wording is bad. Like, the wording is awful. Like, I don't like the wording and the way that she puts it in this context. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But to get into a little bit more interesting context here, there was another clip which we'll look at in a bit, but I wanted to get some more context around the clip as well with a few of these interesting tweets. The first one, obviously, being that Mr. Marcus Perez saying, anti-woke YouTuber gets upset about a person for asking for a pause button be implemented to Elden Ring so she can check on her kids. You got way too much smoke for people with going on you. Your whole channel is basement dwelling rage porn. Try being happy. I mean, I'm fairly certain that, it's more of a character that Frit tends to play up. So this person obviously doesn't know what they're talking about. But also, I find it interesting how he's basically saying that this person's like anti-woke and anti all this other stuff, when really the only like anti-woke thing that he kind of plays up for at least the camera, at least I hope he's playing it up for the camera, is talking about things such as SBI. I also find it interesting how he went through and literally found like all of the videos where he was talking about people like that. It's like, I make that type of content too. You want to call me a basement dwelling dude? I recently just got a job. Congratulations to me. But like, you can't just look at a channel and see the thumbnails and stuff without understanding the context of it. And that's why like certain rage bait type channels don't work for me anymore. With Jaren J, kind of reiterating Souls fans when you just want the ability to pause the game, and it's like, like I don't think most Souls fans fucking care about like a pause button or stuff like that. Like, would you ask someone who no lifes again Minecraft hardcore if they would like a pause button? They would, but they also realize that they don't need it. It's not as necessary to have like a pause button in specific contexts for specific games. For a single player game like Elden Ring, maybe not. You can have it or you can't. But again, with the Minecraft example, they have it both ways. Yeah, absolutely. On anything below on a hard difficulty world or even a hardcore world, you can't pause the game by hitting the escape key. You can't like stop yourself from maneuvering or doing this or doing that for the most part. And it's one of those things where like if you've seen people like Luke the Notable or people who have spent like 200, 300 days in hardcore Minecraft worlds, like you get what I'm saying here. They don't have a pause button, and their world, they actually take a lot more risks in terms of those Minecraft worlds because your entire world gets deleted, whereas in Elden Ring you just like lose your stuff. Like that's not that much of a hindrance. Like, oh no, I'm gonna be in upgraded list for a bit, so it's like, But I think that Ma here puts it probably the best. You have a 2-year-old, you're trying to play Elden Ring, you can't pause, that is situational disability. Now, again, bad wording, this is the quote from the video clip, by the way, so just, yeah. But the person then goes on to say, yeah, I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old and 2 infants. Congratulations. You know what I do with my kids needs help and I can't pause? I let my character die and try again later. It's just a game. And that's the thing here. It's just a video game. Like, you don't need to take it that seriously. You don't need to take it that harshly. People don't need the pause button. At the very minimum, you're probably going to lose maybe an hour of progress. Oopsie poopsie. That sucks. You lose an hour of progress that you can probably easily get back. It's a fucking video game. And again, they'll go on to explain a little in a bit that I'll get into the longer clip in a minute, but they'll go on to explain that it's a situational disability because it's that, like, again, the wording to me, if you think about it and break the word down, makes no fucking sense because situational disability is very vague because, again, like I said before, any situation, like all people who are regularly disabled, who have like are missing a leg or missing an arm, are disabled in some other way, like autism or something. I don't know if that's that might be, depending on you know what I mean. Someone with an actual disability is always, quote unquote, situationally disabled because in specific situations, you can't like do an action and it disables you from doing that action. So it's like, what the fuck are you trying to say? But let's actually look a little bit more into this. And this was a clip taken from Astro Cyborg about a little bit more on this context. So let's look at that video, shall we?
A misunderstanding that people think disabled gamers, whoever else, want an easy mode. This is not the case. It's that the appeal of Elden Ring being really fucking hard is also appealing to people with disabilities. They too want to play the extremely hard game that is very hard for them to beat. They're not asking you to give them an easy mode and make it easy for them to get through. They're asking for a version of the game that can be played with their particular disabilities. So they can still enjoy really hard games as well.
I mean, yes and no. I would say that the majority of it can come down to a variety of different factors, and not just the game itself. For example, you could ask for better controller support. That would 100% be a good accessibility option. Better controller support, more people can play the controller of their choice, and more people can play the game. That is 100% not being debated here. What people are debating is the fact that you said situationally disabled when a person has a child. Again, to me, as someone, again, I don't have kids, but as to me, that doesn't make any sense because it's just so vague that you can apply it to literally any disability. Like, you get what I'm saying here. I just think that you worded this video kind of poorly to try to get your point across that people have lives outside of a video game. You could have just said that. Life gets in the way. It doesn't always disable you, it just gets in the way sometimes. And you have to work around its schedule. You gotta get along with it. It's life.
The complications with this conversation arise, I think, with Elden Ring specifically. Like, yeah, there are so many people who just dismiss it as like, shut up, who cares about you, you're disabled, which, fuck off.
Agreement. Like, no notes, but agreement.
Second, people just assuming they're asking for easy mode, and that's not the case. It's not an easy, it's not even less difficulty, it's more options. But third is the unique challenge with FromSoft games of completing them being such a point of pride. They intentionally make these games difficult. Like I already said, this is an established ethos of these games. They are intentionally very difficult. Elden Ring is the broadest, the most open. You can use summons if you want to. If you want it to be harder, you don't have to. You can approach it with as much or as little assistance as you want, and you have still completed the game. Controversial, I know, but yes, if you use summons, you've still finished the game. I don't care how you play it. Do whatever you want.
I agree full-heartedly. No notes again. Again, this is probably the point where I'm going to just like speed through this bit a little just to get to the points where I think that she kind of does a little bit of bad stuff.
But it's also just that whole culture of beating a FromSoft game is such a point of pride for people. And how do you avoid taking away that point of pride? That is one-to-one with that design ethos. It is making you feel a sense of accomplishment for overcoming something very difficult. It's a feeling humans love. You get a sense of accomplishment. You feel like you did something of value. Humans love that. And Elden Ring's like that in video games on crack. Like, if I feel a sense of accomplishment every time I get an achievement because I collected 50 Who's or Whatsits, it is like triple when I beat a boss in a FromSoft game. There are bosses in Sekiro where I beat them and I like threw my hands up in the air and screamed. There are so few other games that have that effect. And that's a feeling that I do think everybody should be able to have catered to their own accessibility needs. Here's my pitch, okay? Hear me out, the internet. Here's my pitch for fixing the problems surrounding Elden Ring or FromSoft games in general being so like just the discourse being so hotly contested. Like, it's like, I've been making fun of people this week for saying that if you played with summons you didn't finish the game, that you cheated, even though it's a mechanic that's right there. It's literally intentionally that it would be like saying you didn't beat Shadow of the Erd Tree because you used the scatter tree fragments. It's nonsense. They're in the Miyazaki put them in the game. It's cool that we can.
I find it really funny as well, just to kind of point this out too, that I didn't know this. I abused summons the entire game. I don't give a shit. But I mean, I beat like the final boss with. I didn't use the mimic tier. I was tempted to, but I'm like, I don't really think that my build warrants the mimic tier at all, because I would use like Black Knife Tish to kind of get some of that damage over time effect. And it would usually give me openings to like heal and stuff. Like, absolutely. And what's I also find really funny about this is I'm fairly certain that the game master himself, like Mr. Miyazaki, it's like Hayako, or the game dude, the main game dev himself said, "Hey, use summons if you're having a hard time." I'm fairly certain that was like a quote from somewhere. So yeah.
Adopt them or not adopt them based on how we want to experience the thing or the unique challenges that we have, because we're all fucking different people, right? Here's my pitch, okay, gamers? Hear me out. I haven't had this conversation with anyone, so I don't know how many holes there are, but this is my thought. What if, for every game that you finish, but especially for FromSoft games, there were an ending title screen that you could screenshot and you could share very easily that details exactly how you finish the game? Are people going to reply to each other who share that and be toxic about it? Yeah, people are going to be like, oh, you summons, you died, and beat summons, I beat the game. yeah, people are going to be dicks. But I feel like it would maybe prevent some of the extra accessibility specific gatekeeping. Like all of these people who are vehemently against accessibility options, which is really, again, just in-game customization options. No one's asking for less or more damage, but like less button presses, or there's a large list of things that can make it easier for disabled players to play a really hard game and still have it feel really hard, but still be able to play it, you know? But what if you get a screen at the end with the credits that shows
I mean, okay, so this is where she starts to lose me. Now, I agree with the final end bit. That actually is a great idea. I mean, again, to kind of use Minecraft as a really good example, you can actively go into like your player stats for a given world and like scroll through them and talk about each point individually. Like Minecraft tracks that shit. And I'm fairly certain that it wouldn't be that hard to maybe implement that sort of thing into Elden Ring. And I mean, yeah, that makes some sort of sense of like people being like, "Oh, I got this specific ending and screenshot of that." And like some people will be like, "Oh, well, then that's the whole point when you did all these steps and stuff." But I think that at the very least, screenshotting, say, your build already exists, which is just like your inventory. Like that's the part that also might be like, be like, hey, I beat the boss with all this, rate my build or something like that. Like that's fine, and I agree that that can help. Now, the problem here is that she says that people who are against accessibility options are like, I don't think that she understands what that means, right? Again, it could just be that I'm interpreting this wrong, but from what she's saying, people who are against the accessibility options are saying that they're against it because they don't want the game to be easier for other people to be in it. And I agree to an extent, but the majority of people that understand that is not how the, like, again, I just think that like this wording is very strange to me. Like I can't really interpret it too well because my brain is starting to go here. The caffeine is starting to wear off. But from what I understand, she is essentially saying that the people who don't want the accessibility options are against them specifically for the people that are, because they are trying to gatekeep it. And that's not true for the most part. And I do believe that there is enough options that From Software has and that they have implemented in terms of things such as advanced controller support and stuff like that, and the people with disabilities know how to work around it. And I think that that actually helps it in some ways. Like, again, I'm being very vague here, and I think I'm doing what she's doing, and my wording is all off. But, like, I get where she's coming from. It still doesn't overshadow the fact that you said that a situational disability for a child is like a thing. And like, I don't know, man. We'll finish this video and then we'll wrap it up here.
exactly how you played it or what options you had on or off. In my head, this would alleviate a lot of that discourse. People are saying like no accessibility whatsoever because I want to be able to play Elden Ring the exact way that I want to be able.
I don't think anyone has ever said that, really, in the history of ever. I mean, examples would be nice, but I don't believe anyone has said that. I just think that they said that it doesn't need it because it's already accessible to a lot of people. Like, that's the thing.
Have it play it. And I feel like those people are shooting themselves in the foot because what if they get one of those temporary, situational, or short-term disabilities? You break your wrist, you're not going to be able to play Elden Ring. You have a kid, suddenly you can't play Elden Ring. Like, I feel like they say it when they don't have disabilities, but in 10 years, when you do have some kind of disability, I feel like you're going to retroactively kind of regret that you were like, absolutely not. Don't change anything. I finished Tunic. That game rules and is very hard. And after I finished it, I beat the final boss that you don't even have to, well, spoilers. She was so hard.
What the Okay. Oh boy, good thing I kept running that video. Holy shit, what the fuck? Okay, I think that's where like the whole thing goes off the rails there, and that's the part where you have absolutely lost me. So the examples of breaking your wrist or having a child making you temporarily disabled to play Elden Ring, those are horrifyingly bad examples. Like, so bad, in fact, that the answer to that is just wait to play video games when your wrist is healed. Or wait to play video games when the children have gone to school or off to wherever, and you don't have a job that day. Like, there are ways around these things, and it's, again, not situationally disabling to do that. Because, like I said, the whole thing with situational disablement makes no fucking sense if you think about it for more than 30 seconds. Because, again, literally anyone with a disability, anyone it can be situationally disabled, regardless of with a disability or not, but especially if you have a disability. Like, they're disabled 24/7. You are not disabled if you are a perfectly functioning human being who has a child. You just are hindered by the fact that you have a child. And that might seem like the same word, but they are very different. It just means that you are temporarily unable to do the things that you want because you have to take care of this human being that you brought into this world. Or if you injure yourself, that's something completely different. You know what I did? I fucking sliced my thumb open a couple weeks ago. It was really bad, and I could still kind of see the scar from it on my thumb. It was so bad that I was bleeding, and I could feel my blood being pumped into my thumb, and it was so awful, and I had to keep a Band-Aid on it for forever, and it took a while for it to kind of heal, and it's not good to just, like, say that. And don't just give me that crap of, oh, it's a situation. Like, that's not how this works. All right. Anyway, rant over. We're gonna continue. We got like 50 seconds after this. What else is shit?
She was so hard. It took me days. Tunic has an accessibility option in it that you can use to... It's basically God mode. I think you can prevent all damage. I beat the game without that and felt so accomplished and so proud of myself. And I don't care that that mode is there, or that option is there to help other people who still want to experience the game without that. I think that's perfectly fine. But I would have liked just a little something at the end, even an achievement, to give me the credit for doing the hardest fights on what is effectively the hardest in-game possible difficulty because I didn't have those accessibility options on. You know what I mean?
They already have that, though. It's called getting the hardest... What the fuck? Okay. Now, oh boy, let's tear this apart. Look, if you're going to tell me and look me in the eyes and say, oh, they don't give you an achievement for beating the game on the hardest difficulty, motherfucker, if you played this on Steam, they have Steam achievements. And on every game ever, there are different levels of achievements for when you have those different levels of difficulty for a game. Example, Elden Ring, the first time you beat a lot of the bosses, you get a really nice achievement for them that is displayed very prominently on your thing. It doesn't show how you beat the game, but to give an interesting example here, for, say, Doom Eternal or the Doom 2016 ones, where they do actually have those accessibility/cheat options, they're called cheats in the game, guess what it does? When you activate the cheats, right, it disables all achievements going forward. Like, hello, hi, here's your solution. You know what else has that, like, easier option as well in, like, a single-player type campaign? I've heard about Celeste doing the same thing, where they have those easier options that you can crank the difficulty and the platforming down, and it's all really cool. Like, you get that, right? Like, and I don't know if turning them on or off, like, disables or enables the achievements. I don't know specifically. But overall, like, you have to understand that stuff already exists to do that, right? Like, saying how you beat the game, I know that the game kind of tracks and has to track all these things, but to put that into every game, no. Elden Ring kind of makes sense, at least in terms of, like, seeing stats in general, having that screen of, like, here's the stats of all of my character stuff, and not just, like your RPG stats. Like, if it just had that screen of, like, here's how many things I did in this game, like having what Minecraft does, where it tracks everything, that's fine. Like, I'm down with that, but for, like, 90% of other games that are outside of multiplayer games, and I should say like 90% of single player games specifically, that screen is not actually necessary. And you've actually now weakened your argument because you used that example. So I'm sorry to say this, but again, just having a child is not a disability. That makes no sense. You worded this video kind of wrong, although a lot of your points were good. I will say that. I will give you very much credit there. You are one of the more down-to-earth people there. But overall, your argument of having, I guess, I don't know what your argument is. It's like Elden Ring is, the DLC is hard. It's not, like, overall video, solid 6 out of 10. Definitely a passing grade. You definitely got some good points in there. But the few points that are kind of are the ones that are, like, very kind of, you're there, but you're just like this close to being good. In any case, I'm not here to review it at the end of the day. But overall, what did we learn? Well, I think what we learned today is that people need to word their sentences a little bit more, especially myself and several other people in the content creation space. Just saying it would be helpful in the long term. With all that being said, my name is GamePenguin21. If you like what it is that I do and want to support me in any other way, shape, or form, links down to everything in the description below. I do have another album coming out, probably by the end of August or into early September. I don't know, but I'm going to at least be testing out some of the music and stuff. I need to get the art and things together. I know that I released one last week, so I'm going to be trying to space these out a little bit more and get some more music for you guys. I might release a single at the very least in August, if not, and then release the other one towards the end of the year. But I will have at least one more album out by the end of the year, and maybe an EP for Halloween, or at least a single for Halloween, because I like doing that now. It's just fun. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Again, thank you so much for everyone who likes and subscribes and stuff. And a peace off.